When you picture humanity finally landing on Mars, what do you actually hear, in your head? Is it some huge triumphant orchestra, the sound of victory? Or maybe it's the total opposite, like screeching horror movie violins, right? We always seem to expect a big show. But what if the real soundtrack to surviving on another planet wasn't about glory or terror, but just about dryness?
So yeah, what does the future of humanity sound like? Well, there's a fascinating answer coming from this idea called hard SF music. Now, we've all heard of hard science fiction in books and movies, right? It's where the science has to be, legit. This is the musical version of that. It's not just about creating a mood, it's about simulating reality, a reality that is totally bound by the unforgiving rules of its own world.
And one composer, David Peterson, has a pretty radical answer. He created this conceptual suite called the Four Red Seasons. It's actually the final part of a whole trilogy he calls Music to Colonize a Planet By, and it basically throws that whole Hollywood fantasy of space exploration right out the window.
And here it is. This is the punchline. On Mars, you don't get spring, summer, fall, winter. There's no cycle of life and rebirth. You just get this. It's this brilliant, dark, gallows humor. The kind of joke you'd tell when you're staring a really harsh reality right in the face. It's a way of coping.
But this joke, it's so much more than that. It's actually a survival guide. The whole way the music is built tells this incredibly deep psychological story about endurance, a story that plays out over one very, very long Martian year, without a single drop of rain.
So here's the core musical idea, and it is fascinating. The composer moves the music forward by withholding relief. Now think about that for a second. Most music we love, it builds tension and then bam, it gives you that satisfying release, right? The big chorus, the final chord. But Mars doesn't resolve. Mars doesn't care about your story, and neither does this music. It's like a soundtrack for ecological realism.
So what's really crucial here is how this psychological journey plays out over the four movements. It's not just a straight line down. It starts with this optimism that's kind of out of place, then it shifts into this slow, methodical grind. Then it just explodes into a manic panic, before finally, settling into this state of just determined acceptance. Let's actually look at the tempos, because that's where the real story is. Okay, so the first season, Dry, it starts at a pretty brisk 120 beats per minute. This is active, it's optimistic, this is the honeymoon phase, right? The music feels like a remembered Earth season. You're basically running on the momentum you brought with you from home, still able to imagine rain, even though you know deep down it's never going to come.
Then we get to Drier, and you can feel how things break down. The tempo just plummets to 90 BPM. This isn't a walk anymore. It's a trudge. Reality is setting in. You just can't afford to burn energy at that old optimistic pace. Life becomes procedural. You're just checking filters, you're recycling water. The music isn't about expressing yourself anymore. It's just about maintenance, just like your life support systems.
Now, just when you think all the energy is gone for good, we hit even drier, and the tempo absolutely rockets up to a shocking 150 BPM. That's the fastest part of the whole piece. But this isn't strength. Oh no, this is panic. It's a manic, desperate sprint that is completely and totally unsustainable. This is pure crisis mode, just red alarms going off everywhere, with no time left for thinking about home.
And this is what so brilliantly shows the key to survival. The final season, Driest, it doesn't just collapse into nothing. The tempo settles at a moderate 110 BPM. See? It's not the slow trudge of defeat, and it's not the frantic sprint of panic. It's a rhythm of exhausted determination. This is what acceptance without any consolation sounds like. A steady pace you can keep for a future that offers you no reward except just continuing.
Okay, so to really get how important this is, we have to zoom out a little bit. The Four Red Seasons is actually the final act of a three-part trilogy. And this trilogy tracks the evolution of the human spirit as it gets further and further away from Earth.
Just look at this progression. It completely flips the usual sci-fi story on its head. It starts with the past, the Terran biospheres, which is all about remembering the incredible biological richness of Earth. Then it moves to the present, the 5 secular reverences, which is about structuring your daily life with careful rituals. And it ends with the future, our 4 Red Seasons, which is about accepting constraint as your new permanent reality. It's a journey from abundance to endurance.
So, this entire musical project is really built around this one central philosophical debate, one that is absolutely crucial for any real-world shot at living off-world. Should we try to dominate Mars, or do we have to adapt to it?
So on the left, you've got the fantasy we all know and love, Dominion. Mars is an unfinished canvas we get to paint on, terraform it into Earth 2.0, and plant a flag and say, mission accomplished. But the music, it argues for what's on the right, adaptation. It sees Mars as complete, totally indifferent, and absolutely non-negotiable. And in this world, heroism isn't some spectacular blockbuster moment. No, heroism is the invisible, day-in, day-out maintenance. The goal is just to continue.
And that brings us to this key philosophical idea. It's a bit of a mouthful, being anti-teleological. Basically, teleology is the belief that things are always moving towards some final goal, some finish line. So to be anti-teleological means accepting that there is no finish line. The work is never, ever done. Your purpose isn't to win, it's just to keep going.
And there's a really serious warning that comes with all this. If you build a colony on the false promise of a mission accomplished moment, on the hope that things will just magically get easier someday, you risk becoming a ghost story. This potential failure even has a chilling name, New Roanoke, a nod to the lost colony back on Earth. It represents a society that completely collapses because it was built on waiting for a better tomorrow that never came, instead of just learning how to live on the red dirt right under its feet. So how do you avoid that fate? Well, this philosophy lays out a kind of survival spec with 3 psychological virtues. First, perceptual humility. You have to see the planet as it actually is, not as your computer models promised you it would be. Second, unsentimental kindness. Kindness not as a fleeting emotion, but as a reliable, repeatable piece of your social infrastructure. And third, a non-teleological agenda, finding meaning in the daily process of surviving, not in some far-off outcome. And this is maybe the most powerful takeaway of all. Survival on Mars isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about letting go. It's about learning which illusions you need to release. The illusion of an Earth-like future, the illusion that someone is coming to rescue you, the illusion that your struggle will be rewarded, and then discovering what's real and solid once all that is gone. And that really just leaves us with one final thought. This whole philosophy, it's not just for wannabe Martians. I mean, how many of us are living our lives waiting for some kind of rain? Waiting for the promotion, for the market to improve, for things to finally get easier. Maybe what we all need to learn is how to keep time when the rain is never coming. To find meaning not in the final win, but in the simple, quiet, heroic act of just continuing.